Mr. Yang Wen-kit. Thank you, Deputy President. I speak in support of Ms. Doreen Kong's motion on implementing the spirit of the Third Plenum of the 20th Central Committee of the CPC. We need to respond to the call of the people. Members of the public want to lead a good life. President Xi Jinping mentioned members of the public want to lead a better life, have better houses, and have better education opportunities for children. Elderly people want to have better care for them. All in all, we need to achieve the sense of happiness that members of the public want. Housing is the key. The current Trump government spent a lot of efforts tackling housing issues. From light public housing to basic housing units, against the backdrop of a shortage of housing supply, the grassroots enjoy a better living environment. They can live with better dignity. The government also seeks land to build housing. The chief executive mentioned the backloaded approach of the housing market will be improved in 3 years' time. The fringes of the country parks can also be explored to build housing that is affordable to the general public. We can provide medium to larger size of housing units, then we can enhance social harmony. Last weekend, the Labor Department organized an event. We saw quite a lot of young people in the event. There were quite many customers. This entrepreneurship event allowed young people to earn more experience. There was pre-event training, there was one-on-one counseling, there was also support service. The Labor Department can consider organizing more of such events in the future. The event can last a longer period. The contents can also be more diversified. The Housing Department also has another program for public markets with a higher vacancy rate or underutilization rate. Some stores can be turned to bazaars so that young people can sell their own handicrafts, gourmet items, and so on. We need to make better use of our existing resources to improve the living environment for people in Hong Kong so we can satisfy the needs of people. As parents, we do want to provide better education opportunities for children. It's not easy at all to provide children with good education opportunities. The administration can consider trawling for high-quality education resources to come to Hong Kong so that we can make education an industry. We can also enhance our own brand in education. When we grow old, we want to be taken better care of. Elderly services and healthcare services need to be enhanced. The Health Bureau needs to redouble its efforts. We need to enhance the healthcare system. We need to work more on prevention. We need to tackle the relevant healthcare problems. That is to say, high cost, difficult to seek medical attention, and so on. We cannot overlook the impact of a tight fiscal position. We need to enhance living quality for the elderly in Hong Kong. When elderly people have better psychological state, then they will enjoy better health as well. Many elderly people are afraid that the $2 scheme will be shelved. Well, I think a CCTV system can be introduced in order to guard against abuse. This way we can ensure public expenditure is well spent. We need to respond to the call of people and ensure we need to conduct all the reforms for people and by the people. We need to understand the difficulties of people. That's exactly how we can enhance the sense of belonging and sense of gain for members of the public in Hong Kong. Mr. Chen Yong. Thank you, Deputy President. Thank you, Ms. Doreen Kong, for her motion on implementing the spirit of the third plenum of the 20th Central Committee of the CPC. I believe all of us agree, and we do want to take forward all the initiatives mentioned in the policy address by the Chief Executive at full pelt. We need to do so step by step so that members of the public will feel the determination of the administration. Then we can move from order to prosperity and from stability to prosperity. Implementing the spirit of the third plenum of the 20th Central Committee of the CPC, it symbolizes the reform of China has entered a new stage. 300-odd initiatives were mentioned. They also showcased the determination of President Xi Jinping. Then we can improve the life of the people living in mainland China. There were initiatives about enhancing the public services. There are also refinement in the income distribution, employment, social security systems. There are also initiatives that make basic public services more balanced and accessible. We can see a whole array of measures. In the next part, in the important speech of the President Xi Jinping on the 1st of July, he also mentioned some key areas, such as earnestly addressing people's concerns and daily difficulties. I want to once again mention that the aspiration of the people is exactly our goal. Members of the public want to have a better home. They want a larger home. They want to have better education opportunities for their children. Elderly people want to be taken better care of. I believe Mr. John Lee and directors of bureaus, secretaries of department, all of them want to implement these initiatives and achieve this. My colleagues have already spoken on this, but I believe if we can go through every single part of Mr. John Lee's chief executive, then we will understand that all paragraphs tie in with implementing the spirit of the third plenum, and all of the measures have to do with earnestly addressing people's concerns and difficulties. I fully support Mr. John Lee as well as secretaries of department, directors of bureau. This motion meets our aspirations. I believe you all have the pamphlet. There are measures about improving the public healthcare system. The ultimate goal is to allow all members of the public to have medical attention. Regarding building an inclusive society, the new function of care teams is on a voluntary basis, but they are actually indispensable. We can see that they already foster a caring and inclusive society in Hong Kong. They are implementing this concept. They are also doing this well. Regarding livelihood issues, we need to boost the economy based on the measures mentioned in the policy address. That's exactly how we can go about improving livelihood. Without money, we couldn't achieve a lot of things. When the economy picks up, I believe there will be more public resources. Then we can earnestly address people's concerns and difficulties in daily life. That's exactly how we can improve our life, thereby implementing the spirit of the third plenum of the 20th Central Committee of the CPC. Then we cannot benefit from the fruits of the policy address. Mr. Benson Look, Deputy President. In the middle of July, The third plenum of the 20th Central Committee of the CPC ended. It was a success. We need to put people first. Reforms take place continuously. It's a continuous process. So we need to move with the times and propose measures that address people's concerns and difficulties in daily life. They are intertwined with enhancing social cohesion. We need to move with the times and reform our mindset as well. That's exactly how we can implement the spirit of the third plenum. So whatever role we take, we also have a lot to learn and to take in. In the past, while solving societal problems, we only relied on government resources and efforts. Sometimes the government's hands are tied. In the important speech of President Xi Jinping on the 1st of July, we need to change our governance concept. We need to better leverage market forces. We also need to give full play to an effective market and a capable government. We can see there are policies about the youth in Hong Kong to help young people get a home. Take youth hostels as an example. The policy was floated in 2012 by the government. However, a decade later, in 2022, there were only 80 places. Different terms of government continued with this policy. There were also policies to provide subsidies to turn hotels into hostels or dormitories. Then they are run by NGOs. Young people will also serve the neighboring community. $1 billion will be injected to this scheme. It was injected in end 2022. Young people didn't have to wait. They can move in immediately. So there was indeed timely help. In the policy address announced just now, it mentions for white form holders aged 40 or below, one more slot would be given to them. There were 1,500 quota. We need to be responsive to the call of the people to ensure reform is for the people and by the people. We need to leverage the collaboration among the government, business sector, as well as society. We have transitional housing, care teams, Strive and Rise, and so on. All these are aimed at earnestly addressing people's concerns and difficulties in daily life. When we combine an effective market and a capable government, that's exactly how we can address the most pressing problem. One of the livelihood issues is to have a better life. And I believe young people want to see improvement of the country so that they will enjoy better opportunities. Let's go hand in hand and solve the problem that is the closest to our heart, that is the economy. We need to have a can-do spirit. We need to continue to address people's concerns and to build a better life for the people in Hong Kong.
Mr. Yim Kong. Now, Hong Kong has entered into a new phase from stability to prosperity. It's high time that the people got together and strive for economic development with unity. The government should also continue to improve people's livelihood so that we get a share of the success of our country's development, so that people have a sense of gain, fulfillment, and happiness. Ms. Doreen Kong has moved a motion today to implementing the spirit of the Third Plenary Session and earnestly address people's concerns and difficulties in daily lives. Now, this deserves a lot of attention. The Third Plenary Session has passed a resolution to further deepen reform comprehensively. At the same time, priority should be given to earnestly addressing people's concerns and difficulties in daily life. Now, this is all about livelihood issues for the grassroots in Hong Kong. The resolution sets out some requirements, and I have the following 3 suggestions for the Hong Kong SAR government. On housing, whilst maintaining steady development of the property market, we should leverage on the market economy and the institutional strengths. We should optimize the use of land resources. This term of government has given an undertaking. The average waiting time for public rental housing should be shortened to 4.5 years, and this promise should be honored as quickly as possible. On elderly care, the government should look into the actual problems facing elderly and understand what the crux of the matter lies. That means more resources should be deployed to increase the quota of GOPC and shorten waiting time. For patients requiring urgent care, they can receive timely treatment. For retirees, the government should have regard to the development in the Greater Bay Area. There should be interactions with Greater Bay Area cities. Industrial policies should be developed, and more policies should be rolled out to promote, to encourage our elderly people to retire in the Greater Bay Area. Different positions should be created for elderly people to live with in dignity in the Greater Bay Area. Now, in 2022, in the keynote speech delivered by Presidency on the 1st of July, Presidency mentioned his aspiration for Hong Kong government to earnestly address people's concerns and difficulties. The SAR government should do the bidding and allow our people to have a share of economic success as quickly as possible. The government should respond to people's needs. That means the government should be proactive in seeking and embracing changes. This means the government should adopt a new mentality to increase land supply, improve public health care, provide better safeguards for elderly care, and promote upward mobility for young people, attract talents, and build an inclusive and caring society, so as to enhance the sense of belonging among our people. I support Ms. Doreen Kong's motion and other members' amendments. Mr. Zhao Siu-chung. Thank you, President. I thank Ms. Doreen Kong for moving today's motion. One important outcome of the Third Plenary Session is the resolution adopted, and that is resolution on further deepening reform comprehensively to advance Chinese modernization. It puts forward a number of reform measures. For example, a new employment structure should be put in place. I would like to talk about employment support, and that is providing more safeguards for employees from emerging industries, and that means jobs as a result of the as a result of the emerging economy relying on the internet, such as delivery workers, and the rights of these workers have now come under the limelight. According to a survey, these platforms make use of algorithms in order to attract a larger customer base. They force delivery workers to deliver meals as quickly as possible. If the time frame is not met, these workers can lose their jobs. And in order to meet the target, these delivery workers would ride their bikes and often contravene traffic regulations. In 2021, a set of documents was released by the central government. In terms of working hours and other job requirements, the labor unions' views should be heard and their demands should be carefully considered. We should improve the job security of employees. Now, in the resolution, it is said that the labor insurance should be the scope of labor insurance should be widened, and the reform should be undertaken in terms of household registration so that the labor insurance mechanism can cover a wider population. In Hong Kong, we do not have a comprehensive policy. In order to give play to the spirit of the third plenary session, the government should also provide better safeguards for employees in terms of injury at work and other relevant issues. The government should roll out policies. We conducted a survey for platform workers this year. For those injured at work, 40% of them told us that the platform companies did not offer any compensation. 60% of employees expressed dissatisfaction towards the compensation offered by their companies. Although these employees are covered by labor insurance, when they encounter accidents, they get compensation. However, the amount is not sufficient. The maximum amount insured is just $500,000. However, for the employee compensation fund, the maximum amount is $3.5 million. So the government should make sure that the labor insurance for the delivery workers should be raised to $3.5 million on a par with the compensation fund so that they have better protection. For goods or meal delivery platforms using algorithms, these self-employed delivery workers may not be able to get jobs all the time. The platform companies should be required to make a certain proportion of MPF contributions for their delivery workers. I so submit I support the motion. Professor William Wong. President, I thank Ms. Doreen Kong for moving the motion on implementing the spirit of the third plenary session of the 20th CPC Central Committee and earnestly addressing people's concerns and difficulties in daily lives. The theme of this year's policy address is such that it starts with reform for enhancing development. This is an echo to the call of the third plenary session, and that is we should take forward reform in various areas in a stable, in a steady manner. Reform means change. I've been researching on artificial intelligence for decades, and I'd say that this is a disruptive technology that can bring major changes to society. However, we are not proactive enough in deploying AI. Take Gerentech as an example. In recent years, we've seen a spate of Gerentech products, such as fall detecting devices or AI-based robots as companions, but they are not extensively adopted by the sector. Now, there is this scheme that provides subsidies for service units to hire or buy AI tech products for the elderly. But since it's not extensively used, elderly people don't benefit from the fund. A reform is necessary. Earlier, I proposed that the housing department install fall detective devices and other smart detectors in the homes of those who are old and frail and prone to falls. This is one solution to give our elderly tenants better care. We can also make use of AI in public transport. Drones now make use of mature technology. Autonomous driving is already happening in a lot of cities. In Hong Kong, we have autonomous mini buses in the housing estate in Yuen Long and in Science Park. In Hong Kong, we're short of minibus drivers. There are always long queues at minibus stands. If we could make use of autonomous driving, we can help address this issue and enhance the quality of life. Apart from leveraging on existing technologies in improving people's livelihood, we should also understand that the commercialization of R&D results is still at the early stage in Hong Kong. We don't have a mature IP trading system. So I suggest that an IP trading platform be set up that can serve the Greater Bay Area to expedite transformation and commercialization of R&D results. We're at a critical point. In the country's work report, new quality productive forces is set as the top priority. The national plan is to implement AI through the AI Plus Action Plan so as to drive economic growth. The third plenary session of the 20th CPC Central Committee expressly provides that we should undertake reform on technological innovation that is technology-based. We have been too reliant on the financial services industry. For other areas such as I&T, we're lagging behind. We must catch up. I&T should be the way out for our economy in the future. And apart from that, we should contribute not only to Hong Kong's economic development, but to our country's development. We should actively align with the 15th five-year plan. We should be proactive in promoting upgrading and transformation of industries through I&T to earnestly address people's livelihood. I so submit I support the original motion and the 5 amendments.
Mr. Sonny Teng. Thank you, President. According to the TID's website, as at June 2024, SMEs account for the 98% of the total number of enterprises. They engage over 1.28 million people. That is 44% of the labor force. They provide many job opportunities for the members of the public. So there is a relationship between SMEs and Hong Kong residents or citizens. If we have SMEs do well, the people of Hong Kong will also do well. And we can also have employees become more dedicated, resulting in increased productivity. But SMEs have many different challenges, uncertainties in the economic environment, slower recovery than expected. Some banks said in the third quarter of this year for business index, for 10 industries out of 11 industries, they have a decrease in their performance. And for some industries engaging grassroots employees, they have many businesses closing or just barely surviving. I thank the Chief Executive for announcing in the policy address 8 support measures for SMEs, and that there will be a mid to long-term plan for new industrialization in Hong Kong. In order to develop new quality productive forces, we need proper planning. We cannot adopt a single approach for all the industries. I urge the government to publish the timeline for the support measures to be implemented so that we are aware of what is going on. We have a lack of resources, so companies cannot really test out that many initiatives. I would like to declare also I am the chairman of the Productivity Council, and in fact, it would only take $10,000 to rent a place for SMEs to test out applications. So I think for the small value applications, for the various funding schemes, we can streamline the application process so as to facilitate SMEs making applications. With the development of technologies and AI, we often focus the area of development being the northern metropolis. We have actually many industrial buildings that SMEs and companies can make use of to develop new quality productive forces. I urge the government to do better planning so that we can plan for the industries and promote the development of a more diversified economy, and we would have good job opportunities in different districts of Hong Kong. We need to help companies transform, but we also need to help citizens upskill to match the needs. I support the government's measure to reform the Employees Retraining Board to provide reskilling for the whole labor force. I urge the government to provide training in technology applications so that we can equip people with the right skills in order to seize the opportunities brought about by technological advancement. We should also enhance the competitiveness of industries through such. We need to provide the conditions in order to enhance social cohesion. I so submit. Thank you, President. Mr. Lee Cheng-kung. In July, the third plenary session was held, and the resolution adopted emphasized that there should be further deepening of reforms as well as advancing of Chinese modernization. Director Xia Baolong also said we should seek change and reform. So how can we deepen reform in order to resolve different issues such as with work mobility, housing, aging population, etc.? These are long-standing problems too. I'm very happy to see the current term government reforming itself in relation to software and hardware to tackle the root cause of the problems. On housing, I believe everyone would want to have their own homes. As President Xi said, the biggest concerns of the people of Hong Kong would be living in a bigger space. Hong Kong is an advanced economy. We have one of the highest incomes in the world. We have 200,000 people living in adequate housing, that is subdivided units. That's not what we want to see. The government has done much in reforming the use of subdivided units. I especially appreciate the government taking into consideration the suggestion of the Liberal Party to make sure we can address people's concerns. And we need to make use of technologies. For example, we should get big data from Immigration Department to see whether we can release more public housing units that are being abused. On the other hand, the Liberal Party is also concerned about the welfare of the middle class. We have to understand that the middle class faces various challenges. The middle class can bring about development of the economy, but right now the problem is the middle class says that they are faced with tremendous pressure. And in fact, we have the middle class living as grassroots. They can only eat 2 meals a day. They have to take care of the elderly, their children. Some may even think they can't afford to have children. SMEs often face challenges as well. For the middle class elderly, they are even worse off. They may have old age living allowance, but they do not have much in retirement. They cannot catch up with the cumulative increase in inflation. That is a 30% inflation. We have different products, silver bonds, insurance for the elderly, but is it enough? As an elderly person, they want to have healthy lives. But they may get sick. That is inevitable. The medical insurance is often inadequate to address their needs because the insurance company, once they have had a claim, they would increase the premiums significantly. If people cannot afford the premiums, they end up going to public hospitals. But then they need to go through HA Go, eHealth, and if they are not able to use such applications, they can't get healthcare services. This is what the middle class is facing. We need the government promote the use of AI, to promote the use of practical applications in order to resolve the difficulties that they are facing. The Liberal Party is also advocating for the use of innovative use of education vouchers so that parents can make use of the vouchers flexibly. On healthcare vouchers, we also encourage health records to be able to be used across the border. The country has many problems, but we are tackling them one by one. Poverty alleviation and education, we are reforming and opening up, and that is how we can advance Chinese modernization. As a LegCo member, I think we should continue to advocate for the implementation of the spirit of the Third Plenary Session in order to earnestly address people's concerns and difficulties in daily life and enhance social cohesion. Thank you, President. Mr. Dennis Leung. Thank you. The resolution is about further deepening reform. China has gone through a lot, and we have all along taken a people-oriented approach to make sure we can take care of the interests of the people. 1978, we had the reform policy suggested, and we need to not only open up in terms of on a country level, we also need to liberate our thinking in the sense that doing so, we can address people's concerns with an innovative approach. We have entered the fourth stage of reform. We are now further deepening reforms. So the government must catch up. Think about what to reform, and how to reform comprehensively. We also need interdepartmental coordination to ensure implementation of reform. With livelihood issues, there are 5 different aspects. Let me first talk about healthcare. Right now for public bodies, for the hospital authority, monetary authority, and airport authority, their annual salaries are $6 million, $10 million, and another $10.3 million. And in fact, the chief executive is earning so much less than that. We need to make sure public bodies are using resourcing resources appropriately, especially the hospital authority. They are faced with acute manpower shortage. We don't know what resources allocation they have at the moment, so that people's needs are not being addressed. In fact, the Civil Service Bureau can't even provide the information on the hospital authority's services. We have allocated resources, but we actually don't have services for the public. How can we make sure quality of healthcare services can cater to the needs of the public?
How do you make sure that drugs could go to patients so they can recover? Now, on MPF, it's used as for investment. Now, it is a basket portfolio, so it doesn't make enough return. It's not even enough to administrative fee. So we could refer to the school provident fund scheme and so on, and then there could be self-financing. We could improve the retirement of civil servants, and that will help to retain civil tenants. And in the long run, we can address the problem of welfare spending with an aging population. And there shouldn't be any contribution ceiling. So that employers could contribute more. And so employees could also contribute more. Now, in Hong Kong, there are many employers don't want to hire employees, so they don't have to fulfill the obligations in employers. That's why we see so many self-employed or the fake self-employed. But then there is not enough legal protection for the self-employed. And then we have a platform economy, gig workers and so on. And for workers here are like playing a Hunger game. They have to keep meeting the demands of the platform, otherwise they won't make a reasonable income. But then there is no regulation of such platforms. The government knows about that, but it's not acting on the issue. The FTU has been asking the government to do something, but there's no timetable and roadmap yet. So these employers, platform workers, don't get any proper labor protection, so they cannot really take part in promoting economic development. The government should ensure there is a better equity in the community. So the government officials need to think out of the box and actively embrace reform and create more possibilities. Thank you.
Mr. Stanley, President, on implementing the spirit of the third plenary session and comprehensively deepening reform to benefit people, I believe this does not cause any disputes because we all support the idea. However, we're not only doing it for the sake of it. After the closing of the third plenary session, the chief executive led different government officials to learn about the spirit, and also the CE invited the central authorities to give talks in Hong Kong. So we've been learning about the spirit. The district council as well as different organizations have also held learning sessions. I think there have been at least 1,000 of these sessions. We're happy to see that in the latest policy address, it is mentioned that we should comprehensively implement the spirit of the third plenary session and that we should roll out reforms. We should monitor the government in doing this so that the government can enhance its governance capability to better benefit our people. We have seen patriots administering Hong Kong, and we have seen a new vibe in the Legislative Council. In the previous legislative sessions, it was hard for us to imagine that we can have a debate or a discussion on this. I believe all members of this council will support this motion, therefore. As mentioned, we've seen patriots administering Hong Kong, and we are moving from stability to prosperity. I believe that we are moving towards prosperity. Indeed. However, we must pay attention to any anti-China forces. There are newspapers as well as online news platforms which have ulterior motives and spread rumors. Some of these platforms advocate the so-called Great Reconciliation. They advocate or support black-clad violence, and they ask the government to be lenient and encourage protests and demonstrations. We are moving from stability to prosperity, And it is for this reason that these platforms with ulterior motives say that we should be lenient to those who broke the law and that we should give amnesty to those lawbreakers. President, we have to ensure justice. While we are seeing prosperity and people supporting the government, we have to guard against any anti-government or anti-China forces. We have to guard against especially those who advocate violence and sabotage. I so submit. Thank you. Mr. Duncan Chiu, I speak in support of Ms. Kong's motion as well as the amendments made by other members. In the third plenary session, it is said that we should adopt the resolution of further deepening reform to advance Chinese modernization. Mr. Xia Baolong, Director of Hong Kong and Macau Affairs, said that we have to embrace changes so that we can make reforms. In promoting INT in order to achieve better results, I believe we should do the following. First, we have to promote financial and INT development as well as high-quality development. High-quality development is one mission given by the central government. Different sectors of the community should, through transformation and upgrading themselves, promote high-quality development and plug any loopholes and address shortcomings. We should improve our manufacturing industry and production. In terms of education, we have to reform our system and make reforms. In terms of employment, we should address any structural conflicts and disputes. In order to ensure high-quality development, we have to do the above. Take the financial services sector as an example. It is a traditional sector in Hong Kong. In the digital era, we have to adopt a new mindset to make breakthroughs. For example, as we attract talents and businesses as well as capital, we have to adopt a new mindset. We should encourage private equity funds as well as angel funds. We should encourage INT development as well as give financial support to SMEs. And we have to encourage investments in INT businesses. This conforms to the suggestions I've been making to the government. I'm glad that the government is setting up a $10 billion angel fund in life sciences and AI, which are considered to be strategic sectors for Hong Kong. I believe the fund will bring more capital to Hong Kong to address the shortcoming. We can also attract more fund managers as well as enterprises to come to Hong Kong. We should have more of these INT reforms to drive the development of the INT sector. Also, the Hong Kong Stock Exchanges as well as the government should reactivate the listing regulation 21 to ensure flow of capital. This will encourage more fund companies to establish presence in Hong Kong, and it will bring revenue to the government. President, we are seeing the implementation of the INT development blueprint. The development of the Northern Metropolis and the Sentin Technopole are crucial. In terms of the use of land, I hope that the government can change its mindset when it plans the land use. It should adopt a user-oriented approach in order to attract more talents to come to Hong Kong. There should be job opportunities to meet the needs of these incoming talents to Northern Metropolis. We have to have a strategic planning for the Northern Metropolis. Instead of building housing, we have to ensure how we can ensure successful development. We should also take into account GBA development when we plan the use of land and to ensure the flow of funds and talents so that we can have the same standards being applied to both Hong Kong and the GBA. I believe investors would like to see these potentials and opportunities in Hong Kong before they come to Hong Kong. We should make good use of the resources as well as the advantages in the GBA. I so submit. I speak in support of the motion. Mr. Peter Xu, President, in the 20th Central Committee of the Communist Party of China, the Third Plenary Session was held and the resolution of the Committee on Further Deepening Reform comprehensively was adopted. The resolution advocates the improvement of people's quality of life as well as livelihood. Ms. Kong moves this motion about implementing the spirit of the Third Plenary Session, and I'm all for that. 2 years ago, President Xi, in his important speech in July, mentioned about 4 hopes and the 4 must. One of the 4 hopes is to address people's livelihood and difficulties. In his speech, he mentioned that people have aspiration of good lives, and this is our motivation. People's aspiration in Hong Kong is that they can have better housing, better lives, more business opportunities, and that there can be better education opportunities for our children. And for elderly people, they want better care. We have to respond to people's aspiration. President Xi mentioned that we have to develop housing, elderly care, and these are the most pressing issues that we have to address in Hong Kong. With the hard work of the current term government in the coming 10 years, we will have about 300,000 housing units to be supplied, and this will help relieve the tight housing demand. The government has also been working hard on addressing subdivided units by rolling out basic housing units. I believe the problem with subdivided flats will be addressed. However, we should at the same time identify more land and create more land to build housing. We're seeing more and more old buildings in Hong Kong. The redevelopment pace cannot catch up with the need. The Housing Bureau has to continue to think about how to tackle the problem. Dr. Johnny NG, in his amendment, mentioned that we have to reinforce the 8-center positioning of Hong Kong by promoting new quality productive forces. It looks like it has nothing much to do with addressing people's concerns and difficulties. However, President Xi has been promoting and advocating new productive forces. We have to ensure the well-being of Hong Kong people and development opportunities of our people. And in order to do this, we have to develop our economy. That's why we have to continue to work hard on consolidating Hong Kong's 8 centers positioning. In the education front, there are many good universities which are renowned around the world. We have been allocating resources into the educational sector. In terms of kindergarten, primary, and secondary schools, the Education Bureau have to give more support to them. Every year in primary and secondary schools, there are many long queues for those that are popular among parents and students. However, some schools are unpopular. How come there are very popular schools and there are schools that have been having challenges in recruiting students? The Education Bureau has to think about how to upgrade those schools that are not as well known, so that all students in Hong Kong can receive good education. A few years ago, I suggested the government in looking for more residential care places in the mainland. 7 residential care homes have been added into the Guangdong Residential Care Home Scheme. And this provides our elderly people with another option. We want them to have a spacious environment to enjoy their retirement lives. We have to ensure that there are good elderly care policies so that our elderly people, when they retire in the mainland, they feel respected. Thank you.
Mr. Robert Lee. Thank you, President. I speak in support of the motion proposed and moved by Ms. Doreen Kong to meet our goals in improving people's livelihood. It is stressed that we have to ensure people's livelihood, and that's one of the major tasks of Chinese modernization. In the 2024 policy address, the Chief Executive proposed that we should further deepen reform comprehensively and roll out livelihood-related measures. I am the most concerned about poverty in Hong Kong, especially cross-generational poverty and on-the-job poverty. I think that the government should improve education to enhance upward mobility of the people, to alleviate the income disparity of the people. Since the opening up of our country has been working on it, and in 2021, we have alleviated poverty, and it is proposed that we should move towards common prosperity. And in Hong Kong, there is an income disparity. The poverty line is half of the median income level of a place. According to the CNSD statistics from June to August this year, the family median income level is $30,000 per month. It means that the poverty line will be set at $15,000 per month. But we cannot totally rely on the poverty line because we have to take into account the assets held by the people. For elderly with without income but with a lot of assets, they may be considered poor if we just adopt the poverty line. So the government have identified 3 groups that we need to help, including those living in the subdivided units, single-parent families, and elderly singleton, that amount to about 190,000 people. The Chief Executive have rolled out measures to help these groups of people. For example, by rolling out the community living room, the Strive and Rise program, and to assist CSSA recipients to retire in the mainland and be housed in the residential care homes there. I think that this kind of targeted poverty alleviation measures would be helpful in helping those who are in need. I'd also like to stress that we not just have to help the 3 groups of people that I just mentioned. We have to help alleviate the intergenerational poverty situation and help those who are homeless. And I also support the amendments moved by Dr. Johnny NG. We have to consolidate our 8 centers positioning and vigorously develop new quality productive forces. And I think that we should make reference to the practice of mainland local governments so that we can target the issues that are of concern of the people. I think that the government should create high-value jobs so that people with different talents can identify a job that suits their potential and improve the economy as a whole. So I'm glad to see the measures rolled out in the policy address centering on the 8 centers positioning of the government to consolidate and enhance our status as an international financial, shipping, and trade center. Also, education is the key to solving the intergenerational poverty issue. I think that the government should step up promotion of investment education, and we should instill the right consumption values among the young people so that they won't borrow money to spend. We think that we should instill the right investment philosophy among our young people so that they won't over-consume. Also, I think that on top of the current curriculum, we should help university and secondary school students to learn about the right financial values. President, I also seek in support of the motion. If I may remind members, according to the time limit set out in the House rules, the debate should end by 5:14 p.m. I will allow 4 more members to speak. At 4:38 p.m., I will ask the mover to speak on the motion, and then we will deal with the remaining procedures. Ms. Lam So-wai. Thank you, President. I speak in support of Ms. Doreen Kong's motion and all the amendments. The third plenary sessions have been completed successfully. We passed the resolution to further deepen reform comprehensively to advance Chinese modernization. This shows our strong determination to modernize our country. 300 measures are set out in the resolution that cover politics, culture, society, and so on. This is very meaningful for the long-term development of our city. The third plenary session says that we should promote whole process people's democracy to solve the issues faced by the people and to meet the aspirations of the people for well-being. For us to solve our long-standing issues, we should reform our traditional policies. We should establish forward-looking strategies, and we should solve livelihood issues from a new perspective. President, Hong Kong is going from stability to prosperity. Under the 14th Five-Year Plan, it is said that Hong Kong's government should seize opportunities to develop new quality productive forces and consolidate our 8 centers positioning. While we develop our city, we should resolve people's livelihood issues. So in Dr. So Cheung-wing's amendment, it is said that we should, as an international financial center, boost a thriving economy and a prosperous and affluent society. But the general public has a strong aspiration for expediting the resolution of the deep-rooted problems that still exist in areas such as housing, healthcare, and poverty alleviation and elderly care. I fully support that. I think that the government should reform so that we can solve these issues. Take the healthcare systems as an example. There is a long waiting time for specialist outpatient clinics. For optometrists, people have to wait 180 weeks before they can see an optometrist. Maybe for patients that need regular monitoring, we can refer them to district health centers and the optometrists that were stationed there, because they have been trained for 5 years at universities before they can practice. By this, we can allow patients to be prescribed with glasses and lens. If we can implement a screening scheme for optometry, that will solve the issue. I see the determination of the administration in reformation because a number of measures have been set out. In the policy address, it is said that we should increase the cataract surgery by 20%. The residential care home for people with disabilities waiting time has been very long. Take the Hongqi homes as an example. The waiting time could be as long as 10 years. When sexual harassment cases happen, that undermine the confidence of the people in these residential care homes. So in terms of waiting time and monitoring, we should reform them. Maybe we should set up a family member monitoring group and ask the residential care homes to report to the family members the situation. President, we have to break through in order to reform. and it's no easy task. We should not just be result-oriented, we should be careful when we proceed with reformation. We should keep a clear mind in order to reform. We should be careful and cautious. We should achieve breakthrough while we reform. President, I so submit. Ms. Lillian Kwok. Thank you, President. I thank Ms. Doreen Kong for moving the motion on implementing the spirit of the Third Plenary Session and earnestly addressing people's concern and difficulties in daily life. Education is the key to our country's development. A resolution on further deepening reform comprehensively to advance Chinese modernization has been passed in the Third Plenary Session. It is said that education technology are the key to our country's development. We should improve the higher education system. We should enhance culture and fairness of education. It is said that we should improve education systems. It is said that we should deepen education reform and create a platform for high-caliber talents. Mr. Xia Baolong, when he met with Polytechnic University representatives, he said that Hong Kong education systems has a long history and it is the precious resources for our country and is the key competitive edge of our country. We should have a comprehensive system to allow the research and development personnel to focus on their studies. I've talked to some scholars. They told me that the reason why they choose Hong Kong as to set up their R&D centers is because we have this one country, two systems principle adopted. Also, Hong Kong allows for a high level of academic independence, as well as the fact that there is strong support from the universities on R&D. I also thank the government for rolling out the $10 billion INT industry-oriented fund. But the investment in INT amount to a low percentage of our GDP compared to other countries. It is said in the third plenary that we should improve the technology education of our country. We should be government-oriented while we protect our country's interest. We should invigorate our country through education and science. We should also facilitate integration of academics, research, and education. We should also create comprehensive protection for our immigrants and enhance our facilities. We should also ensure that there is measures catering to the accommodation needs and education needs of the family members of the talents. We should also internationalize DSE and build the study in Hong Kong brand. In the future, we should build Hong Kong into a renowned education hub. It is also said in the third plenary that we should instill the right values among students. We should also promote digitalization of education. The government has been proactively pushing ahead with such initiatives, but for special education, I think that we should enhance it even further. The country is scrutinizing a policy for education. It is said that we should conduct educational activities in accordance with the mental and physical health and level of the students. We should also make use of kindergarten resources reasonably, and we should integrate kindergartens with nurseries. For pre-kindergarten education in Hong Kong, the teachers often start teaching Chinese and English, and in K3, students were asked to form sentences with subject, verbs, and nouns. there is not a comprehensive plan for pre-primary education, and there is no support for SEN students. I think that the government should review comprehensively the pre-primary education. President, I hope that Hong Kong can deepen reform of our education systems to achieve the Chinese dream of the great rejuvenation of our nation.
Mr. Kingsley Wong, thank you, President. The Third Plenary Session of the 20th CPC Central Committee has adopted a resolution for deepening reform to advance Chinese modernization. President Xi Jinping insisted that people must be put first, and we must respond to the aspirations of the people. We need to make sure that reforms are equitable, and then we promote co-prosperity among the people. And then President Xi Jinping also stressed that we must always consider the wishes of the people as we make policies, and for people, of course, they want to see improvement in their livelihood. Now, in Hong Kong, there are 630,000 people who earn less than 25 hours an hour. Grassroots workers work long hours but get low pay. They're not fairly rewarded. And it's also difficult for them to get secure healthcare services. Now, the healthcare voucher will soon be used in the Greater Bay Area, but then it doesn't cover surgery and other medical treatment. And then non-elderly recipients don't get this are not eligible for the scheme. And then fund companies charge high administrative fees. Inflation is high, so retirement benefits are eaten into. Now, the low-income workers have asked the government to deliver on these pledges soon, but then there's no timetable. Now, the government needs to deepen reform. So that it has to tackle all the tough issues. The Third Plenary Session mentioned that there must be a system in place that will effectively improve the income of the low-income groups. Now, so we need to keep reforming the mechanism. And then in the past 14 years, statutory minimum wage only increased from $28 to $41.5 because the formula is not fair enough. So we need to improve the livelihood of the working poor. We need to make sure that workers are able to live with dignity. Now, and if we want to complement we want complementary use of resources with the Greater Bay Area, there must be proper coordination mechanism. For example, in healthcare, the care vouchers must cover the 9 main cities in GBA. And for non-elderly Hong Kong residents, there should be facilitation for them to buy medical insurance in GBA. And then they could seek treatment sooner, and that will cut short the queues in Hong Kong. Now, there will be 580,000 people who are the poor elderly. So MPF is the most important retirement pillar for people. We need to make sure that the return will be higher than inflation. Now, in the past decade, the net return is minus 2.2% to minus 1.3%. That's below the inflation rate of 2% during that period. So that's the MPF participants suffer deflation. Now, it's a good time to enhance the MPF system. It is mandatory retirement savings. The government needs to shoulder some responsibility. The government needs to be proactive to make sure that there will be products that will give return higher than inflation. Now, the recent enhancement to the MPF will have far-reaching impact on the retirees. So the government needs to lead the community to work together to deepen further reform, and we must break through all the barriers involving vested interests, so that people can enjoy a better life. And then we'll be able to meet the expectations of President Xi Jinping. So I speak in support of the motion and the amendments. Mr. Dennis Lam. Thank you, President. Now we're seeing centenary changes around the world, and deepening reform is important in Hong Kong. We must take heed of the guiding thoughts of President Xi Jinping, and the spirit of the third plenary session of the 20th CPC Central Committee must become a driving force for us to make reforms further. Now, Ms. Doreen Kwong's motion points out that we need to earnestly address people's concerns and difficulties in daily life with regard to grassroots livelihood and social welfare, so as to enhance social cohesion in Hong Kong. The third plenary session proposes to enhance the demographic structure, and there's need to enlarge capacity for providing various services, and so people will have a sense of happiness and well-being. So from cradle to grave, there should be better protections on all fronts. And there are various reform measures, for example, improving the healthcare system. So there will be more transparency in the private healthcare system. I am all for this policy. We are going to do it now, but actually it's been done. It's been done already on the mainland. So there will be a transparent fee structure. Patients know what they're paying for, and then there won't be so many disputes. And then we must also pool resources together for the emergency cases. And we could increase fees for non-emergency cases. But then the government should also consider strengthening night clinic service, night outpatient clinic service, because people don't know whether the case is urgent or not, and they can first go to the outpatient clinic. Now, our housing authority is going to restructure its fees, and unless it's an urgent case, and people will have to pay. But I think HA will explain further its reform measures, because the public are really concerned. If, say, people contract heart disease or cancer, if they're going to have surgery in government hospitals, will the fee structure change substantially? The middle class is especially concerned about that. So I hope the government will explain the new reform measures more clearly. Now, we want economic development so that we could afford to support people's livelihood better. And in the third plenary session, under the third plenary session resolution, there will be further integration with GBA in the GBA, and it is an important mission. And this is also direction for the Hong Kong to take in high quality development. Hong Kong enjoys the advantage of being backed by the mainland and connected to the world. So we can play a more important role. In terms of healthcare, the central authorities have certain expectations of Hong Kong. The government, Hong Kong needs to consider the needs of the country and the actual situation in Hong Kong. Hong Kong should proactively promote better collaboration. For example, we should leverage on our advantages, and then for the latest medical devices, drugs, and investments, we could help to bring them to the Greater Bay Area cities. So then we could help the country's services and products to align with the international standards. Now, in the new round of opening up and reform, then the Greater Bay Area, Hong Kong and Macau can certainly see a high degree of integration. And then we will be able to enjoy the dividends arising from the high-quality development. I speak in support of the motion and the amendments.
Ms. Doreen Kwong, you may now speak on the amendments. President, I thank Dr. Johnny NG Dr. So Cheung-wing, Dr. Hoey Lee, and Professor Priscilla LEUNG for moving the amendments. This has enriched the original motion. For us to further deepen reform, we have to respect the people, and we should break new grounds, and we should respond to people's demand. Reform is meaningful only when it's for the people and can be sustained only when it is motivated by the people. For us to further reform, we have to address people's concerns and difficulties in daily life. We have to consolidate and enhance our position as the 8 centers. We should also advance the new quality productive forces. In terms of welfare, we should address people's concerns and difficulties. Therefore, I fully support the amendments moved by Dr. Johnny NG and Dr. So Cheung-wing. At the same time, I thank Professor Priscilla LEUNG for talking about the strengthening of the community mediation mechanism. As I mentioned, community is a small society. By improving community infrastructures, that shows the determination to improve people's quality of life. Community is a place for us to offer elderly service, childcare service, and community mediation mechanism. All these rely on the government's efforts. Building community will enhance social cohesion. Dr. Hoey Lee also mentioned in his amendments that we should make reference to mainland governments, and we should exchange with them. And that reminds me of the resolution passed in the Third Plenary Session. We should be practical when we open up, and we should be inclusive. And these are the things that we should learn from our country. And these are the mindset that we should adopt in our road towards reform. When we further deepen reform, we should enhance social cohesion. When we reform and transform, the government should take proactive action to allow people to feel the changes through building a communication network and revitalizing the economy. These are the means for us to reform. I hope that members will support my motion and the amendments moved by Dr. Johnny NG, Dr. So Cheung-wing, Dr. Hoey Lee, and Professor Priscilla LEUNG. I so submit.
Under Secretary for Housing. President, I thank Ms. Doreen Kong for moving the motion and the other members for moving their amendments. That is Dr. Johnny NG, Dr. So Cheung-wing, Dr. Hoey Lee, and Professor Priscilla LEUNG. The resolution of the Central Committee of the Communist Party of China on further deepening reform comprehensively to advance Chinese modernization, adopted at the Third Plenary Session of the 20th CPC Central Committee, has put forward a number of important reform initiatives. One focus is on improving the quality of life of the people. It is an important revolution for the development of Hong Kong. To us, housing is our top priority. This government has the resolve and the capability to tackle all the housing issues in Hong Kong, big and small. We strive to boost quantity, speed, efficiency, and quality in housing production to the benefit of the people, adding to their sense of happiness. We strive to stay ahead of the problems as we formulate sound long-term plans. First, on increasing the supply of public housing. With our unrelenting effort, we managed to reverse the backloaded public housing production or supply. Counting light public housing LPH, the total supply of public housing in the next 5 years will reach 189,000 units. The first batch of 4,400 LPH units will be ready for occupation starting from the first quarter of 2025. A total of about 30,000 LPH units will be completed by 2027 to 28. The composite waiting time for subsidized rental housing will drop to 4.5 years in 2026 to 27. The government is very concerned about the housing needs of the inadequately housed, especially those living in subdivided units, SDUs. In the next 10 years, that is from 2025 to 26 to 2034 to 35, we have identified sufficient land to meet meets in full the public housing supply target of 308,000 units under the long-term housing strategy. At the same time, the government will provide 21,000 transitional housing TIC units and 30,000 LPH units to meet the short-term shortfall in public housing supply. We are therefore confident, determined, and capable of tackling progressively the obstinate problem of inadequate SDUs. The government will legislate to introduce a regulatory regime for basic housing units. We will start consultation on the regime this December to seek the views of this council and stakeholders. We can then finalize the content of the bill and the legislative timetable. We hope that grassroots households can bid farewell to inadequate housing as soon as possible. The government will take forward the regulatory regime in a pragmatic and orderly manner. We will put the people first while having regard to the supply in the private and public housing sectors. We need to make sure that enforcement actions will not lead to the displacement of SDU households who are not eligible for public rental housing, PRH. The government will assist those in need to find alternative rental accommodation, including basic housing units. We will also deploy flexibly other housing resources, such as transitional housing, temporary shelter, interim housing, and so on, to provide those in need with temporary accommodation. We will make sure that no one will be left homeless as a result of enforcement actions. At the same time, we will not allow anyone to jump the queue unfairly for PRH allocation. With the phased completion of LPH starting from the government will further improve the housing ladder. We will review the public housing projects to be completed in the second half of the next decade. We will gradually adjust the ratio between PRH units and subsidized sale flats, support young people in purchasing subsidized sale flats, improve the various arrangements for purchasing subsidized sale flats, and speed up the turnover of PRH flats by tightening the policy on well-off tenants. We will launch the Cherished Public Housing Resources Award Scheme as we set up our effort to combat tenancy abuse. All the above policies fully demonstrate the resolve and courage of the current government in solving the housing issues in Hong Kong in response to the central government's demand for new thinking and deepening reform. The Housing Bureau will always put the people first as we develop building technology with new quality productive forces and press ahead rigorously with traditional public housing production and also the quick production of LPH and TH using the method of modular integrated construction. At the same time, we're promoting smart property management and so on. The aim is to enhance the quality of life of people in our strive to respond to the aspirations of the people. So I submit.
Under Secretary for Health, President, I'd like to thank Ms. Doreen Kong for moving the motion today, as well as Dr. So Cheung-wing, Dr. Simon Lee, and Dr. Johnny NG for proposing the amendments. The Third Plenary Session advocates reforms, and one of them, the advocates, is that we have to improve our healthcare system. This has to do with the sense of well-being of our people. The Health Bureau will implement the spirit of the Third Plenary Session and deepen reform comprehensively. And we will make use of our advantages to reform our current system so that we can ensure a high-quality system as well as highly efficient system to safeguard public health. We will build Hong Kong into an international healthcare hub and promote new productive forces to ensure that there will be development of the industry. The Hong Kong SAR government has high-level professional services. Clinically, we have world-class level of services. In terms of R&D, there should be clinical trials to assess the safety of medical devices. If successful, these drugs and medical devices can be registered and produced in massive amounts. As we recruit people to test and undergo clinical trials, there are restrictions. We have 80 million people in the GBA, and the Hong Kong SAR government should seize the opportunity and make use of the advantages of our healthcare system. We should work with other GBA cities to build a trial platform to launch clinical trials. And this is what Dr. Johnny Ng said we should complement each other. We will improve the 1+ approval system. New drugs as well as new medical equipment and devices, as long as they get the approval of one institution together with the data of clinical trials, which can be collected through the trial platforms of the GBA, then these drugs and devices can be registered in Hong Kong. Through this system, we can attract different pharmaceutical companies to have their drugs registered in Hong Kong to speed up the use of new drugs in the city. This will provide us with more options of new drugs, and with more options, we can ensure that the prices of drugs in Hong Kong will be competitive. Through the speedy approval mechanism, we can have the new drugs enter the international market more rapidly. On local public health system, we need a comprehensive reform to ensure that we can enhance the quality of our healthcare services. Based on the condition of patients, we divert patients to different levels of our healthcare system. This can ensure that patients in need can get treatment as soon as possible. Like Mr. Chen Pui-leung said, the Health Bureau will comprehensively assess the positioning of our healthcare system and reform the functions and roles of the Primary Healthcare Commission as well as the Department of Health. I thank Dr. Lo Wai Kwok as well as Dr. David Lim and other members for their support in the primary healthcare system. We will ensure a comprehensive and coordinated primary healthcare system. We will continue to implement the recommendations set out in the primary healthcare blueprint. This includes developing a community drug formulary and launching a community pharmacy scheme to ensure that the drugs can be more affordable for people. Mr. Stanley Lee mentioned about district health centers, and we will integrate women health centers and elderly health centers into the DHCs. We'll also offer screening programs. We will expand the screening programs, including the chronic disease co-care pilot scheme, to include lipid screening. We will also, for prevalent cancer, progressively roll out more screening programs on top of the current colorectal screening programs and other programs. The hospital authority has been the backbone of our healthcare system. We will ensure the service quality provided by the HA, and we will optimize the use of resources by the HA to ensure that we will channel the resources to the patients in need as well as patients who are critically ill so that we can provide more targeted services. One of the measures is to review the price structures and fees of public healthcare services and roll out subsidies. The government will study whether we should continue to roll out the existing subsidies apart from offering subsidies to the underprivileged, especially to patients who are seriously ill. We'll also speed up the procurement of medical devices and come up with another 10-year plan for our local hospitals and enhance our triage system. We will enhance the provision of services for patients with cataract. President Xi mentioned that we need to have a healthy life. So our goal is to have continuous reform to protect public health, and ensure that our healthcare system can maintain its quality. We will continue to implement the relevant initiatives. I so submit. Thank you.
Undersecretary for Innovation, Technology and Industry. President, first of all, I'd like to thank members for their invaluable comments, including Ms. Doreen Kong, who moved the motion, and Dr. Johnny NG, Dr. SO Cheung-wing, Dr. Hoey and Professor Priscilla LEUNG, who moved the amendments. I also thank the 30-odd members who spoke on how Hong Kong should implement the spirit of the third plenary sessions of the 20th CPC Central Committee. In the following, I will briefly talk about what the Innovation, Technology and Industry Bureau, ITIB, has done in this area. Our country has all along placed innovation and technology at the heart of its overall development. Hong Kong's position as an international INT center has been confirmed under the 14th Five-Year Plan. While developing new qualitative productive forces is an important policy direction of our country, it is also the core growth engine for the high-quality development. To achieve high-quality development, this term of the government has been trying to steer INT, new quality productive forces, has appeared in multiple chapters in the resolution of the third plenary session of the 20th Central Committee of the Communist Party of China, leading industrial innovation and transformation. In the third plenary session of the 20th CPC Central Committee, it is said that our country should further deepen reform comprehensively. Hong Kong has also picked up our pace of reform in tandem. In Chief Executive's 2024 Policy Address, a series of measures to promote the development of INT, new qualitative productive forces, and a new form of real economy with Hong Kong advantages are proposed. To further promote the development of new industrialization, we will draw up medium to long-term development plan to encourage traditional manufacturing industry to update and transform by leveraging on INT, as well as enhance our support for professional services. We will also guide more market capital to invest in INT industries, reflecting a revamped approach of government in this. At the same time, Hong Kong will integrate into the national development. We will enhance the Hong Kong Park in the Loop as an international INT hub. Dr. Johnny NG, Mr. Lam Shen-Chiu, and other members have also talked about how we should make use of INT in the development and reformation of local industries, and also diversify our economy, building up a real economy. We should leverage on new quality productive forces to achieve high-quality, sustainable development of our city. Through developing a INT ecosystems and new industries, we will be able to create diversified and quality job opportunities, as well as opportunities for starting a business. We should allow our young people to unleash their potential and allow members of the public from all sectors to enjoy the positive impact brought about by new qualitative productive forces. INT is a strong impetus for development, and that will allow us to meet the aspirations of our people for better living. We should promote various strategies and measures to help our members of the public, including elderly citizens, to learn more about technology. We should narrow the digital gap. We have an outreach team helping the elderly to learn about technology. We will also roll out this scheme to help people improve their digital literacy. At the same time, as mentioned by Mr. Andrew Lam and Mr. Robert Lee, and along with other members, we try to enhance the efficiency of the government and public services by leveraging on INT so that members of the public and the business sector would be able to benefit. The government will take the lead in making use of data in establishing a data-driven policies. By the end of this year, we will roll out digital government and smart city initiatives to better address people's concerns and technology by using technology to enhance a sense of gain and well-being among the people. The ITIB will adopt a reform mindset to leverage on Hong Kong's advantages. We will enhance new quality productive forces through INT. We will build Hong Kong into an international INT hub and build a better future for our people. President, I would like to thank once again the members who have spoken just now. Let's work together to implement the spirit of the third plenary sessions to further deepen our reform and build a better Hong Kong and contribute to our country. President, I so submit.
Secretary for Labour and Welfare. President. Now, the ancient saying that if we're poor, then we must make changes, and we make changes, then there will be a new way. And so by changes is what we mean by reform nowadays. Now, as members pointed out, the core spirit of the third plenary session of the 20th Central CPC Central Committee is to further deepen reform. And Director Xia Baolong said that we have to make changes proactively and embrace changes. And then the policy address just delivered, the subject is reform for enhancing development and building our future together. So if you just look at the title, you know that the Chief Executive is fully implementing the reform spirit of the third plenary session. Well, at the beginning of the policy address of paragraph 4, the Chief Executive mentioned that what we need to take note of as we proceed with reforms. He said that as we make reform in the reform process, we have to decide what should be built from scratch, what should be overhauled to set things right, and what should be consolidated and bolstered. And then we must have a systemic mindset. This is actually repeated in the third plenary session resolution. So we have to manage the relationships between overall and local interests, between the present and future, and between macro and micro concerns. Now, we may make reference to the successful experiences of other places, but then maybe we have our own different systems and structures, so that we therefore cannot mechanically copy the reforms in other places. We have to take heed of the prevailing circumstances and tailor our proposals to local conditions. So these are the principles we go by in carrying out our work. That is, first we must have systemic mindset, and secondly we must bear in mind the special conditions of Hong Kong. And then we must, of course, make sure we deliver results. Now, some my colleagues explained the various reform measures of this government, and now I would like to speak on caring for the elderly, the old and the young, and targeted poverty, strengthening labour support, supporting the disadvantaged, and so on. Now, as you know, the government's poured in immense resources in caring for the elderly. We will continue to plant resources in this respect because we are facing the challenge of an aging population. So on top of what we are doing, we need to have new thinking. So you see that we are trying to facilitate retirement across the boundary. And then we have expanded our capacity. So we're increasing the number of residential care homes for the elderly in the Greater Bay Area from 4 to 11. And with healthcare, we're also trying to give support. Now, our thinking is that the cost of a place in substandard RCHE in Hong Kong is about $14,000 to $15,000, and if the elderly lives stays in a home in the Greater Bay Area, the place is nicer, there's more space, and everything's better, and it's cheaper. So, and can they also make use of the medical insurance scheme on the mainland? Now, if they have a residence permit, that is, they stay in the mainland for more than 6 months, then they just need to pay a few $100s to take out medical insurance in in Guangdong. But then there is excess limit or ceiling of claim ceiling, and so now in the policy address we say we are going to give them $10,000 for clinical service, and for inpatient service $30,000 of subsidy. Say an elderly person has hypertension, diabetes, and so on. So the subsidy will be enough for the elderly person to see a doctor 12 times in a year. And with $30,000 of subsidy is enough for someone to stay in hospital for over 20 days. So let's say someone falls and has a bone fracture, then the subsidy should be enough to cover the hospital stay. Maybe it's not entirely sufficient, but it's good enough. So what we're trying to do is to do something bold that will meet the pressing needs of the elderly. And on caring for the young, the government's also taken an important initiative. We have passed the mandatory reporting of child abuse ordinance. Over 100,000 professionals from different disciplines will become mandated reporters of child abuse cases. But then we are providing a series of support measures. We're going to provide training. We also plan to set up 4 community parent-child centers. So through playing activities, we hope to minimize the number of child abuse cases. Now, the reason why there are child abuse cases is because of a struggling family. Say the father or the mother is in jail and it's a broken family, and we don't give them help early, then their children will be caught in this vicious circle. So with our community parent-child center, we want to promote positive parent-child relationship as early as 1 year old for the child. And of course, we want to help carers of singleton and doubleton households. We have the designated hotline for carer support, 18213. You just call the hotline and you get help. And then we have community care teams in 18 districts. They will all help us to take good care of the singleton and doubleton elderly households. And then this year, this term of the government again embraces reform. So we go for targeted poverty alleviation. We don't just look at figures, but rather we look at targeted groups who are living persons. We help SDU households, singleton and elderly and doubleton elderly households. In a short space of time, we launched 4 community living rooms, and as for the after school care, it now covers more than a good number of schools. We also give support to singleton and doubleton elderly households, and then we are going to implement to abolish the offsetting arrangement under MPF, and then for the protection of wages in insolvency fund, we are improving the coverage and protection. So it's to give support to the workers and address the challenges of people. Now, the third plenary session offers opportunities for us to further improve the standards of our work in terms of housing, welfare, social welfare, and so on. And then we will resolve problems for the public with pragmatism. So once again, I would like to thank Ms. Doreen Kong and the other members for their motion and amendments.
正案。
I now call upon Dr. Johnny NG to move an amendment. President, I move my amendment. I propose the question to you that Dr. Johnny NG's amendments be passed. Will those in favor please raise their hands? Those against, please raise their hands. I think the question is agreed by a majority of each of the two groups of members present. I declare the amendment passed. Dr. So Cheung-wing, as the preceding amendments has been passed, you may move your further amendment. President, I move my further amendment. I propose the question to you that Dr. So Cheung-wing's further amendment be passed. Will those in favor please raise their hands? Those against, please raise their hands. I think the question is agreed by a majority of each of the two groups of members present. I declare the amendment passed. Dr. Hoey Lee, as the preceding amendments have been passed, you may move your further amendment. President, I move my further amendment. I propose the question to you that Dr. Hoey Lee's further amendment be passed. Will those in favor please raise their hands? Those against, please raise their hands. I think the question is agreed by a majority of each of the two groups of members present. I declare the amendment passed. Professor Priscilla LEUNG, as the preceding amendments have been passed, we may move your further amendment. President, I move my further amendment. I propose the question to you that Professor Priscilla LEUNG's further amendment be passed. Will those in favor please raise their hands? Those against, please raise their hands. I think the question is agreed by a majority of each of the two groups members present. I declare the amendment passed. Ms. Doreen Kong, you still have 2 minutes 43 seconds to reply, then the debate will come to a close. Ms. Doreen Kong. President, I sincerely thank the members for their invaluable views on the motion. They have enriched the content of the motion and they have proposed some ways for us to further deepen our reform. There are some analysis on the different livelihood issues proposed. They have given some concrete advice, and they have also talked about how we can improve the quality of life of people living in the rural areas and how we can benefit our young people as well as grassroots residents. I agree that we should be pragmatic when we reform, and we also have to cater to the actual circumstances and keep up with the times. We should incorporate technology into our proposals and solutions. So I thank the secretaries and undersecretaries for their reply to this motion. Having heard the secretaries and undersecretaries' reply and having read the policy address, I think that the administration have implemented the spirit into their policies for the sustainable development of our city. A successful reform relies on a harmonious society. We should enhance social cohesion. I think that the government will continue to listen to the people and become friends with the people. Lastly, President Xi Jinping said that people is the greatest and is the core to our politics. We should leverage on our advantages to solve people's livelihood issues, and only by this will we allow our people to feel the benefits. And only by this will we win the hearts of the people and enhance the sense of happiness among our people. And I'll put the question to you that Ms. Doreen Kong's motion, amended by Dr. Johnny NG, Dr. So Cheung-wing, Dr. Hoey Lee, and Professor Priscilla LEUNG be passed. Will those in favor please raise their hands? Those against, please raise their hands. I think the question is agreed by a majority of each of the two groups of members present. I declare the motion as amended passed.
Members' motion with no legislative effect.